point being, I was thinking, like, how would you discern if we currently right now are not in just this massive simulation? Or what do you think about that?
I mean, it's kind of similar to like, hey man, you need to wake up.
Yeah.
Wake up. You're in a coma right now. You've been in a coma for the last few years. Whoa, I don't know why I just said that. That was really weird. But you know what I'm saying is that like, I mean, it's totally possible, right? You look at dreams, right? You have those dreams where you just go to sleep and
you're like, we don't know where you are.
You are just so in the dream. It just feels so real, right? And like, what if this is all a dream? What if this is a coma? And those are the things that, it's really like hard to prove too, right? I totally would believe it, right?
Yeah.
I think it's a very creative and gnarly theory that I really like am interested in.
Yeah, because, think of being some sort of a creator. Wouldn't you create something where it was so much depth? Because it's like, let's say you have this time here. We have the concept of time.
Yep.
We're born and we die. Everything else in the middle is just the time we have to spend here.
Yep.
Right? So wouldn't you want to create something here that was so deep in terms of what you could do experientially that it's hard to like, get bored really. But people get bored. But I see. There's so many things, like so much depth to our existence, like which we're trying to simulate now in video games. We're trying to like think of, I guess the analogy would be think of like a game like Grand Theft Auto where they are actually simulating the cities to look the same, the buildings to look the same.
Yep.
And at some point you could potentially step into a virtual version of the world without the real consequences of your actions.
Yeah, yeah.
And here, today, look at the fidelity, the depth of our fidelity. Like this experience, we are in this avatar that's so like real. We can feel the sensations of it. It has its own like quirks, its own biology.
Mm-hmm.
One exercise that I like to do with all my guests, which I could like to do with you, is if we just for a moment, shelve everything that we know about our history, about our memories, just wipe it all away right now.
Yep.
And right now in this conversation from this point on, we're just going to refer to only being present. And we're not going to go touch our past. So let's say you came into this room and your past is outside. Your memories are outside. Let's just say your mind is outside.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to step in here right now and sit down and just be present with me as who you are without those memories. Can you do that?
I say yes.
Okay. Don't think because you can't think. Thinking is about the past.
Yeah.
So just be present. So right now, all I want you to do is just answer to me and be present with me. Listen to my voice. Don't even try to think about what I'm trying to say. You don't have to visualize anything. No effort.
Gotcha.
No effort's needed right now. Just being present in this moment right here. Do you feel anything that's different inside of your inner environment? When you live in that state where you don't have to consider, you can simply just be.
I do.
Don't think about it.
Yeah. Well, when I do feel like it feels much more
Empty.
Yeah, but also like kind of weights being lifted.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I just like kind of just don't think about anything and just like let everything go and just. All right, what question did you ask? All right, nothing else matters. And then now, like, you get that weight lifted off, right?
Yeah. I've been kind of practicing this more and more in the last few years. I've learned a lot of it with meditation and on some of the people that I follow, like, that talk about, like, the spirit and things like that. It's funny because, like, people discount forces that we can't see, yet gravity exists, yet the wind exists, and all these metaphysical things are just discounted completely. But at the same time, forces exist in our nature that we don't completely understand and we certainly can't see.
Yep.
So completely denying that there's no such thing as a spirit inside of us is just a very weak argument.
Yeah.
I would say it's a weak argument to start. And experientially, when I've been extremely stressed out and depressed or bummed out about life, seeing that nothing outside of just a story is playing inside of my head at all times, narrating what's going on inside of me, what's going on outside of me that I'm seeing, and then just projecting on these layers and layers of abstraction.
Yep.
It just gets me to to experience where I'm simply observing everything that's happening here. It's all coming into this place. It's like, how am I any different than, let's say, the Terminator, who comes in and has like all these capabilities of a human being and these different layers of analysis? Like we're kind of like that. We are, in a way, sitting here, and we have these memories that we can call upon events that have happened to dissect our environment. And that's how we articulate. That's how we like move around and like do things. We're able to walk without falling over because we can see there's a step that we got to climb, right? Because memory serves, you got to lift your foot up to go up this. But without those memories, we'd be screwed, right? So there's a certain need for memories for survival. But beyond that, memories is no different than like your hard drive. You can store a bunch of garbage on your computer, you know, and let that like pile up. The problem is your mind is really good, and this is where like the unconscious mind comes in, that they call, or the mind that is acting when you're not aware of it, right? This is a lot of it's like when you're driving, and you're not aware of it, autopilot. So there's all these things that become like these motor patterns. They call them, like, they fire up in your body. They're ballistic. They leave, and then you can't bring them back. Like anxiety is one of them. It's a programmed response, but you can also reprogram your responses to some of these things. So I guess the point I was trying to make is, how can we say that, you know, there's a certain level of simulated programming that's happened inside of us that we're operating from, but we're not aware of? It's like we're like the most controlled system. This is where like mass marketing and social media and TVs and radios, even all of that stuff comes into play. It's like there's this social like normal way of being, and we're all like operating from these images and these stimuluses that we see around us, and they become the framework of our life. But those are also the things that are causing us the chaos too. So there has to be a way to detach from all of that. And like one of the ways I do it is with this type of an exercise, where if you can sit for a minute or something in a space where you're not letting these thoughts run wild, and simply let them just part ways, and you simply just stay. You can do this at any point in your time, at any day, at any time, you know, and you'll feel like that liftedness.
I sometimes do like an intense shower thoughts, like just sit down on the bathtub floor, have the shower going on, and then just like immediately just like let the mind wander type thing. Just be like, oh, all right, what do I need to do? Sometimes it's work, you know, but it's the creative thing of work of like, oh, let's say I'm in the middle of a problem. All right, now kind of just let it go crazy on this problem. But then a lot of times if it's not work, it's just all like, oh, let me just randomly think, you know, just let it go crazy, right? And it's all like, and it feels good, right? And I feel like that's...
How far does this go? Let me go into the story.
Exactly. And then 30 minutes later, I should get out of the shower. But, I feel like that's very important.
I think acting in presence is the key to, like, get yourself out of anxiety, get yourself out of any emotion that you don't like, because our bodies are programmed to a certain degree, or I should say, our psychology is programmed to a certain degree by the way we were raised, by the environment that we grew up in, and all of that. So there are some of these responses that are so knee-jerk to you, but unless you become more aware of them, you then start to realize that you can actually change your response to some of these events. Like when you go out and you see a homeless person, rather than thinking that's just a bum, a loser, you know, good for nothing, you might be able to be more present and see that the guy looks really thirsty. And maybe he's just really struggling and he just needs water, and perhaps you could be that for him. You know, and whatever it is. I mean, I'm not saying like go out and like just hang out with homeless people. I'm not promoting any of that. All I'm saying is I'm giving an example of how, like, when you're more present with your environment, you get to observe things that are outside of your biases, that are outside of your own programming. And ideally, you would want to have a group of friends who are not going to judge you for your biases, but they'll be able to call them out to you when you seem to be operating from a very close personal place, and you're not seeing the repercussions of your actions. You're not seeing the problem with your thought process because you're so attached to it.
And it's like, I strongly agree with like the environment that everybody grows up in, right? Like growing up in Texas can be way different than growing up in New York, right?
Sure.
Because you have these like microcultures everywhere. But I totally agree. And I think right now in this society, like, what's the number one thing that we judge a person based off of? What do you think?
Well, we look at the way they look, the color of their
Yep,
skin.
that's a big one. And then I also feel like they also care about what do you do for a living.
Yeah. Who are you and what do you do? Those are the number 1 and 2 questions that I ask you. What's your name and what do you do?
Yeah.
Well, what the hell does that mean? Everything I do, you want me to tell you? Or no, what you're more interested in, what part of society am I getting my money from?
Exactly. But does your job make you who you are?
No. Those are just roles.
Yep.
You know, this is the fundamental understanding that you in your life are playing different roles.
Yep.
But you are not any of those roles.
You're your own self, your own being, right?
Yes. Yeah, and then this is where like the spiritual part comes in. Well, if you're not any of those things, then what are you really? Are you just this breath in this body?
Yep.
And then has this manifestation and this vehicle to operate from? A lot of the older texts, like I have some Indian older spiritual texts over there, and different psychological texts that I've read where they're talking about Western stories and Eastern stories and correlations with them, and growing up heard all these stories. Like my grandma used to always tell us, my mom too, about like that there's a spirit inside of us. So it almost became like this inbuilt belief.
Mm-hmm.
But experientially, I would say that I'm of a firm belief that is exactly what it is. It's that we are this spirit who has this pureness inside of each and every single one of us, but then there's also this mind voice that is so well disguised that we can't discern if the voice that we're hearing is the truth or if it's just a projection, because the voice becomes so personal. The voice could be a parent's voice, the voice could be your own voice, the voice could be somebody that speaking to you, and you just believe it.